Alright, what's going on, boys and girls? This is another Linux Reacts video. I don't think I'll be as swear prone this time around as I was with the first few. This is Frank. I've known him forever as far as here on YouTube. I used to know him as the Road Trip, so it's been a long time. I'm curious to see what his take is on Ubuntu and the 16.04 family. So I want to roll into this and see what his take is on Ubuntu and kind of give my thoughts after. Might give some reactions during the video, but for the most part, this is going to be just kind of my take on what Frank thinks.
Greetings, friends. Make sure that I'm on speaking to you right now. Okay, looks like I am. I wanted this to be like a little blog. It's been a few days, but here goes. Frank GadgetsRForever Milton coming your way. I have my webcam up, got my Ubuntu desktop, and I got a lot of thoughts I've been thinking about this week. I hope I can remember them all. I am not reading a script, not even a website right now. You can see you can see what I'm saying here, but I'm going to go into a few things. I really love Ubuntu. Now, I don't necessarily mean it's just the normal Ubuntu anymore.
I'm assuming you mean Unity. As far as
what am I trying to say?
The regular Ubuntu.
When I want to jump back into the Ubuntu right here, let me go to it.
VMs, I hate them. I get why people use it, but oh my god, I hate them.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. What am I trying to do here? So far so good. My screen recorder's still picking it up. But boy, my fan is working overtime. I could have just talked to you about this. You've all seen Ubuntu 16.04. Here's my thoughts while it's booting up. It's boring. Ubuntu itself is so in the world boring. I mean, I admit, I went to put this picture straight from the Ubuntu settings right on here just to make it look like something bigger and better. I still can't stand the Unity desktop. This is what drove me away from Linux.
Okay, why?
Besides a few other problems combined, but this was the final thing that just made me go away and put up with Windows again for a few years.
Why?
Just,
what is it about it that you don't like?
So many great, awesome distros like Peppermint, Linux Mint. Elementary's pretty good. I know I didn't give it the world's greatest review, but there's a lot of things I did like about it. And then again, I was reviewing a beta anyway. So many other distros are fantastic that are derivatives of Ubuntu. But Ubuntu itself, I feel like as if the devs, they spend all their waking hours and talents getting those repository, not a bad thing, but getting the repositories and work straightened out, and the building blocks as the foundation in place. I'm going to quit out this desktop. This wasn't really a review video about Ubuntu 16.04. It's more my thoughts about Ubuntu 16.04. So I'm just going to quit out of this. I don't like how overtime my fan and my laptop's working. I'm impressed that this hasn't crashed yet. No, still going. So, what I'm trying to say is, I love the community. I love what Ubuntu stands for. I love what Ubuntu was. back during GNOME 2. I'm not saying I ever want that back. No way. But back then, and what it was and what it is today, to me, you think it up, you can do it. For example, Ubuntu's great with the XFCE going.
Okay.
I haven't really played too much on Linux Mint XFCE because I feel like Linux Mint 18 Sarah is so good. And the XFCE version is just a teeny tiny bit more tweaks. On top of that, I don't need to do that. For more radical change in a virtual environment right now, of course, I would just use Ubuntu. Now, Ubuntu overall, with all its family of distros like Mint and Peppermint, and like I said before, is awesome. Ubuntu standalone, if that's all it was, I might play around if I was completely bored, but things are incomplete. Couple of people I've made friends with here on YouTube doing Linux videos say the same thing, and I'm not saying because they do, but I totally agree that it just feels incomplete. You pull up the applications, there's like 4 applications in the Unity environment, and there's tons more, at least the self-installed ones. That's just to name one of them. Here in my Ubuntu Mate desktop, I laid this out. This is called Mutiny. If you haven't done it, if you don't have Ubuntu Mate or haven't chosen this one, I love this. I know it looks a little bit like Unity at first, but to me, it's like Unity meets the older-fashioned GNOME. And like Martin Wimpress has said in many blogs of his own, he and his team has gone and stripped away all the fat, all the unnecessary and outdated and obsolete and stupid codecs today by our standards. We just don't need it. And here we have a fully functional, better than ever desktop. I just think this is just fabulous. Sometimes I log into my machine here on Ubuntu Mate and just go, it's beautiful. And why do I have Ubuntu make your life easier? It doesn't say Mate. Well, because I like to change up the wallpapers a little bit every now and again.
And to me, it looks boring.
If it wasn't for Ubuntu, who knows where Mate might be? Because of Ubuntu, because of the building blocks, the foundation.
With the Linux stuff.
Bigger and greater things can happen. Enter Peppermint OS. It's a fantastic distro too. I just get too busy lately in Ubuntu Mate.
Peppermint
and Linux Mint.
It's great on this.
And I like testing out so many other distros as well. That's one more thing. I have been testing out Apricity. I was going to do videos on all these things, but I may do some a little bit later, but just a quick about how I've been doing. Apricity was alright. It was boring at first. Why do they kind of pick the most boring wallpaper? That's the first thing that meets you when you first log in, right? That and a welcome screen. Welcome screens are becoming more commonplace. I don't know who was the first to do it. I guess Linux Mint was one of the earlier ones, at least that I remember seeing. Many of you will have different opinions and experiences, sure. Ubuntu Mate, his welcome screen is fabulous, and you've seen a lot of video reviews about that, especially with the talking ones. English Bob is really awesome about it, just to name one. Well, I'm going to wrap up this video about now. I'm kind of running out of a few things to say. I had all these programs moving. I can't wait to kind of play back this video and maybe trim out a couple of dead silence moments I had in this video. I do my best to give you a pretty quality video that you're going to like and hopefully watch a few more. I like talking Linux. I like learning from the community. I've been doing Linux off and on since 2008, so that's about 8 years, but I haven't been on Linux the entire time for 8 years. I've probably been on Linux for about maybe half that time.
About 4.
And I feel like I'm smarter than the average user at work. I'm constantly troubleshooting things people don't think about, including some of the admin people, IT admin. I feel good about that. I don't walk around with a cape saying, "Hey, without me, where would you be?"
No, that would be most of our IT people.
I feel like I'm valuable and important, and I bring it home, and I get back on Linux, and I just feel like the universe is my playground. I admit, Google is one of my best friends. That and DuckDuckGo. I love DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuck's good
But
if you
then
don't want to
some
try.
of the times I just get a lot more universally from Google when I want to find things, links and whatnot. And I can learn anything from changing the swappiness of my newly installed distros. It always ships to 60. That means like 60 every 60 out of 100 times. It's going to go and grab the memory. Well, I can change it down to 10 because it's just a small little laptop, not a gigantic server.
Or you can just take out the swap partition.
Finally, before I go, there's one more thing. This is a blog video just about this week. I am so mad about the news saying that there was a spyware, a really bad malware, more like malware spyware, because of a Linux flaw. Are you crazy kidding me? Are you really?
Is this the one about Android?
Linux flaw is the fault that there's malware moving around. I don't want to pull up the article right now. You've probably heard about it, or you can YouTube it or Google it right now.
This one from your gadget, or is this one from the register?
But my thought on that is, since when was Linux created in the first place for smartphones? For this malware to infect, and because it was all about Android devices.
This is, I guess, the
Linux
900 million.
Linux wasn't all about that. Linux was something a lot different back then. And because some really smart hackers figured something out and exploited it in Android, the best thing that the news media that's feeding our brains with whoever's paying them so that you'll go buy more PCs and laptops saying, oh, if we make up these lies about Linux having a flaw, then great, we'll sell more Windows 10 laptops and just steal their lives away, right? I'm glad I'm out of that universe. I've been seeing the poisonous news. Not all news is poisonous, but a lot of it is. And I just don't want any part of that. Okay, everybody, thanks for watching this far. I appreciate it. That's my blog for this evening. Have a good one.
Okay. I think I understand where he's coming from. Let's get into... I want to address the end of the video, then I'll address the majority of the video. The Android flaw. Linux has been in development for 91, so 25 years now, as of the recording of this video. I think some people forget that Linux and its modularity and adaptability is the thing that made it strong. That's why the reason Linux works on other platforms or architectures. I mean, Linux has Spark support. Linux has x86 support, x86 64 support, ARM support. The hackers that essentially what they were able to do with Android, that's a thing for Android. Because Android, while Linux kind of goes off and does its own thing, there are good and bad portions to that, obviously. So for me, my take on that is that's a Google and a OEM and a carrier problem that they need to fucking fix, because supposedly there was a update that fixed that security flaw. Now I'm assuming this is the one where it's like 900 million devices that are able to be infected by malware for root exploit, if I remember correctly. Now there have been a few other Linux related stuff, but a lot of them are like at the end require the user to enter their password and stuff. So there have been Linux exploits, but it's still the problem with that, and really anything still becomes between, be it the touch interface or the keyboard and the chair, because the problem is always at arm's length. Otherwise, the problem is always the user, 90% of the time. So that's my take on that. As far as the first part of this, the Ubuntu criticisms, I have made criticisms about Ubuntu my fair share. I probably did a video, I think it was about 4 years ago, that talked about the inconsistencies in Ubuntu's Unity UI. Some of them have been fixed. Personally, for me, as you can tell, I'm not using any traditional desktop right now. I'm not using XFCE. I'm not using KDE to record this video. However, what I will tell you is that I use Cinnamon. This is the Deepin Linux 15.2. I use the Linux Mint 17.3 Cinnamon edition. I have an Ultrabook that runs on Ubuntu 16.04 with a Unity interface. My lovely thing that I showed right here, this netbook that has Peppermint OS installed on it, that uses XFCE, if I do believe how Peppermint is installed. What I'm getting at is everything I run is completely ass backwards and different. I have a Netrunner or Maui or whatever the hell they're calling it now as far as laptop that has the Manjaro rolling version with KDE installed on it. So I use them all. I use Windows. I use OS 10. Personally, for me, when it comes to Ubuntu, there are things that are incomplete. My biggest gripe is actually how useless the top bar is now, as far as what's its use. Before it was to hide the global menus, but now you can put the application stack back into the window instead of on the top. Now if you keep that and you get rid of the global menus so they don't disappear and the global menus stay on top and visible all the time, okay, I get the use case for that. Setting things like transparency, there are ways that I wish some things were better. The ability to move the Unity dock down to the bottom, great. I'd kind of like to be able to move it to the right side, maybe to the other side, up top, and I can completely get rid of the bar on the top and put notifications into the dock. There are ways that Ubuntu needs to fix it. The problem is Canonical is focused on this convergence thing. I've seen it in action. It intrigues me, but it's just not there yet. We're 5 years into the Ubuntu Unity interface, and yeah, it needs some tweaking, and I think they spend too much time on mobile and forget about the desktop. The thing that we have to remember as users is a lot of the mobile stuff, a lot of the development stuff that they are doing is on Unity 8 and near. So the problem with the desktop version of Unity is that it's going to sit on top of Unity 7 and Xorg and whatever display server is coming down the pipeline. So until that transition happens, a lot of the features and stuff are going to get stale on desktop and, quite frankly, going to get incomplete. But I think there are ways that they can improve the UI on Unity. Now, I understand why that could drive someone away. Personally, for me, I've always been adaptable to whatever friggin' UI I'm running. I mean, I run Android, iOS. I've switched from BlackBerry 10, which is all gesture-based OS, for my smartphone over to Android and back to Android. And I've done pretty much every OS that you can think of. And it's just about being adaptable. Some things work better than others. Other things don't work so well. That's just kind of my take on that. Now, if it's not for you, that's awesome. Personally, for me, there are things in Unity that do make it boring. The applets and the non-dismissible icon pop-up notifications are annoying as shit. As you can tell with this, I'm running the Deepin desktop on Deepin Linux 15.2. This is personally my preferred desktop interface. Now, you can get this on Manjaro, which is awesome. There are just some things that are missing on the Manjaro version, like the Deepin store and stuff. And that's okay. I think being a little more adaptable and understanding of what the distros are aiming for may help, though. And understanding where they're coming from. Now, if you're talking strictly PC, and I use that term as Windows, Linux, and OS 10, and mean strictly personal computer hardware-wise that you chose and you want it to work a certain way, that's the beauty of Linux. You can find whatever you want to make it work for you. But go into every interface with no expectations and about how stuff works, because a lot of stuff is not going to work from one desktop environment or one window manager to the next. Just some advice. I can still get all my work done regardless of what interface I'm functioning on. It might take me a little bit longer, but if I can still function from A to Z for what I need to get done, it doesn't really matter to me. So that's my take. Just keep an open mind when it comes to the development stuff. I get the criticisms. I've had my own. I still have my own. And I just want to say welcome back, man. The Linux stuff has gotten kind of stale. So I enjoy having these kind of, I don't want to say arguments, but debates about critiques and stuff that we as Linux users can provide. Because I find to be honest, a lot of the distro reviews have gotten kind of boring. It's all fire up a VM and call it, put it on real hardware. Just my recommendation. But anyway, man, welcome back. I hope to see more of these videos. This is not a criticism. This is just me giving my reaction to how you feel about stuff. As a fellow Linux user, I enjoy debate. Civil debate. Now, there are times where I will rant and rave. So, anyway, that's my take, guys. You guys know what to do. Rate and subscribe.